Hi, it's Monie, and welcome to Mind and Your Business. Hi, family. Welcome to Mind and Your Business with Monie. So glad you're here. This week, I am having the best. I already know I'm going to have the best conversation with my friend, someone who I consider a mentor. She's the godmother of my eldest child. I've been watching Bridgerton, so I like talking like I'm royal. Her name's Christina Morse, and Christina is the CEO of her own company called Christina Morse LLC, which is a consulting company that is focused on like HR staffing and things of that nature. Unclear what that means. HR.
I'm still unclear on it as well.
Okay,
so
whatever.
We're in the same boat.
Okay,
yes.
Great. But Christina, like I said, has been a friend of mine for a long time. One of those people where, you know, you can go forever without talking, but somehow every time you talk, you're on the same page. Sometimes we have these parallel journeys that are happening that we find. And she also has been one of the people that first introduced me to mindset, spirituality, like crystals, crystals, which we could talk about. And she's also the author of a book that's going to be coming out in October called Black Heart Life, which is significant because she always ends all of her text messages with the black heart emoji. So
hence the name.
Yeah. So Christina, thank you for being here. Thank you for being my friend.
Thank you. This has been a long time friendship that developed many, many years ago. And I think we have this introvert kinship that
we do.
That came about. And I just really value our friendship. And you're absolutely right. We can go a month or 6 months or 2 weeks or 2 days, and we just pick up where we left off.
I know. That's like the best kind of friendship too, especially for people like us where it's like, I don't have the energy to be talking to anyone every day.
If you get offended if I don't text you every day, then there's a lot of people offended in
there's
this world.
a lot of people who will stay offended. But Christina, so the reason that I was really excited to have you on this show to talk to the 6 or 7 people that listen to this podcast is you really helped me a lot with, you have lived a life by example that is very, it honors the power of, I feel, mindset and being able to relate to your world in a different way, being able to relate to your life in a different way. And I feel like you have this wisdom that in your own way, without being like super preachy or pushy, you just are so true to yourself and just living in like this way that causes at least me to be able to see that and be like, okay, I can do that too, or I can see where she's going. And I can understand why you're doing what you're doing in order to reach your goals in a totally different way than like the American culture, the go, 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 drive, drive, drive. Like you're different than that. And I feel like seeing you grow and create and be successful now publishing a book that I didn't even know about, it's just a testament to that. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. And I thought that maybe we could start with your book. 1, I didn't know about it. So that, and 2, I want to hear like, what is the book about? And like, just what are you trying to convey in the book, and what can someone expect if they read it?
Well, initially I wrote the book just kind of for myself, for my own therapy, quite honestly. Still on that therapy journey, need a lot of that. But it just became kind of this passion project that I was working on the side. And it pushed me kind of outside of my comfort zone. 1, I had to take writer's workshops and really spend some time to learn how to write, because the initial copy, which I think only one person read, thank God, because it was awful. Thank God she was a good friend and very kind to me. But
she's like, This is
really terrible.
I thought she's like, this was good.
No, she didn't tell me it was terrible, but I knew it was terrible
Okay.
by the pointers that she gave me. Like, burn the whole thing and start over.
Hey, you might want to delete all of this.
You might want to start at the end and just backspace.
Yeah, just hit backspace until your computer shuts off.
Right.
Okay.
So I had to go through some writers' workshops, and I do enjoy writing, and I enjoy reading good writing, like you're posts are always very entertaining for me. And so I just kind of went through this journey of learning how to write my story in a way that was relatable. And I think that where it all started was I, went through a kind of a tumultuous breakup, if you will. It was a really kind of a one-off interesting story. You were there for all of that back in the day. And
it was the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, it was
just your situation. I was like, what?
Things kept coming, you're like, what? Wait, who? How did this even happen? Yes. And so that kind of kicked off this whole journey that I went on. That really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. I had to leave my house very quickly, and just kind of my whole identity was blown up. And that was the catalyst for that identity being blown up. And so throughout the story, I'm just kind of talking about my journey from that point, and changing my identity in terms of my career, in terms of my spirituality, which I didn't have before that point, and in terms of how I viewed relationships, and kind of how I was going to get back on track with it just really being able to trust anyone ever again in my life.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little sassy, because that's who I am.
Who you are, yeah.
And but it's also very spiritual, and kind of a look back to how things started with. I really started at a young age with a lot of victim mentality. Like, I grew up a victim in my own mind. And so I didn't take ownership of a lot of things. And it was that realization of, I can talk about self-actualization. I can talk about manifestation. I can talk about those things. But if I view myself as a victim, then that's all I'm ever going to be. That's all I'm going to manifest for myself. So how do I change that viewpoint and kind of move on with my life? So,
okay. So what you're saying is, or what I think you're saying is, that you had all of a sudden this awareness that, like, I know about the words of manifestation. I know about the idea that we're supposed to be empowered, but I don't believe I'm empowered. I believe that I'm a victim. So therefore, my life is reflecting back victim-y shit, or like things that do victimize me, because we're always trying to make ourselves right? So like, you had to, one, realize that, and then two, start to address the victim mentality, in order to start changing how your life looked. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I don't even think at that time I necessarily realized, like, I already thought I had gone through a bit of this journey. And if you would have asked me at that time, I wouldn't have thought that I was real victim-y.
No. And you didn't come across, I mean, I knew you didn't come across like that.
Mm-hmm. I had done some of that work maybe without even realizing it. But it really became crystal clear, things that had happened many, many years ago that I just carried with me for so long, as belief systems, right? Because oftentimes when we feel like we're the victim, we confuse that with our belief system. Like, that's just how it is. And that's just how it is like the worst.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So you said something a couple seconds ago that I just want to clarify or ask you. So you said, like, my whole identity was blown up. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming, are you glad that happened? So like, when I think back to the guy, what's his name, is Mike? Mm-hmm. Mike number 1. First Mike. Because you're with Bad Mike. Sorry. Mike. Okay. Bad Mike. So Bad Mike, what happened caused your whole life to basically be dumped over, turned upside down. But do you feel like that had to happen in order for you to get to the place that you are now?
100%. Yeah. I have no regrets about any of that. It was, I mean, there's no other word for it. It was a shit show when it happened.
Yeah.
Right. But so many good things came out of that. Right. I thought I was happy at that time, and I was really just living in mediocrity. I don't know. I'm making up my own words here, but
mediocrity.
Yeah.
Mediocrity.
I was living a mediocre life.
Okay, got it. Good.
And I was quite happy.
We'll edit that out.
I was quite happy with that mediocre life.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't realize that there was more. And I think that's happened every time I've done anything to like end a situation or get out of a situation, or anything that I've perceived as something bad happening has always led me to something better. And I think you have to have those experiences to provide yourself with that confidence that something better is coming.
That's true.
Right? It's like your first breakup in like high school, and you're like crying over some dumb boy that looks like he was in a boy band and he was awful anyways, and you were together for 2 weeks, but you think your life is over, and then you make it through, right? And so then your next breakup isn't so bad, and your next breakup isn't so bad. It's just like you got to train that muscle a little bit to get through those things. Yeah,
okay. I agree with that, and I think that one of the coolest things about just being your friend during that time was, or just this honestly through the past like several years, is seeing what you're talking about. Like you get more and more fearless, like moving forward, because you start facing your fears. Like, well, that happened. My whole life got blown up and I'm still here.
Yep.
So I guess maybe there's not that much to really be afraid of in terms of just living your life and pursuing what you want to pursue and changing things as they don't work for you.
Yeah, 100%. Because I followed that up with starting a business for somebody else, and that business ultimately ended up failing. And if you would have asked me at the time, like I would have thought, oh, it's really gonna put me over the edge, right? I will absolutely die if this business fails. Well, guess what? The business failed and I didn't die. I'm still here. And that led me to start my own business, right? So there was always something around the corner that as long as you get up and face the next day, there's another solution for you, another alternative, another path. And it's probably better than what you were on to begin with.
Yeah, or what you like even picture for yourself, right? Like I think a lot of times for me, I get stuck on like, okay, it's going to look like this. Like the next good thing, it's got to be like this. It's going to be in real estate, or it's going to be in this or that. And then if it's not that, I almost don't recognize it as a great opportunity because I'm so boxed in on what it is I'm expecting it to be.
Right. I think Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that, where he talks about like when you let go of that thing, right? You picture it a certain way and that doesn't happen. Your brain only knows what it knows.
Right.
And so it can only calculate your loss because it can't comprehend the infinite possibilities ahead of you, right? It's just not possible for your brain to comprehend that.
Right.
So all it can calculate is what it knows from the past. So it's going, oh, well, this didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to in the past, so therefore it's a loss, when actually it opened this amazing door and connected you with things you didn't even realize were possible.
Oh my God, that's a really cool perspective.
Yeah.
I've never really thought of that way.
He's great.
You know, I started reading Becoming Supernatural. I couldn't get through it.
No?
I couldn't get through it. I don't know why.
He's got a certain, you've got to get used to his tone and his, the way that he words things, because he puts these big concepts out there, right? And you need a little time to digest them. So sometimes it's hard to get through his work, especially all at one time.
Maybe I need to do like the audiobook instead.
Yeah.
I am kind of stupid. No, I'm just kidding.
You're not.
No, I'm not. But okay. Hey, so I want to talk about, you had this breakup and then you up and left. Can you talk about up and leaving? To me, so when that happened, especially who I am as a person who never up and leaves, or like for me, going from Phoenix to Scottsdale is like, we traveled today. Oh my, we saw them repaving a street. That's me. It's like, wow, it's exciting. And I'm tired.
I remember when I left the country and you're like, what? You're going where? Why?
Where is that? Is that on Earth? But now that I see, I saw it then and I judged it as absolutely insane. But now I see it as brilliant. And I want you to tell me, like, how did you come to the conclusion of, you know what? Fuck it. I'm out.
Without spoiling too much of what's in the book.
Okay. Understood.
I'll say this. I have a long history of probably making the wrong decisions in relationships. And so this wasn't my first experience dealing with somebody who's lied. And so I didn't have the bandwidth to understand this when I was younger, but this happened when I was like, 40, 41, 42, somewhere in that range. And by then I understood that liars lie. So there's absolutely no point in trying to ask a liar for the truth.
Right.
Like I could have confronted him. He could have given me all kinds of excuses and lies and made up more stories and done all of that. And where would that have gotten me? Would have gotten me more confusion. Then you're stuck in this place of like, well, do I believe that or do I believe this?
Yeah.
I knew in my gut that something was wrong. I didn't even have all the details when I decided to leave. I just knew that he had lied to me about some pretty big stuff. And I just knew that if he was going to lie to me about some of those details, that he obviously was afraid of me finding out, right?
Yeah.
So it had to have been a big enough deal that he was afraid of me leaving to begin with. And so he was leaving on vacation a couple of days after I found out, and I just waited until he left on vacation, and I packed up my stuff, and I was gone by the time he got back.
Right.
And so essentially I just left a note. But there's a lot more to it that'll be in the book that you can all read later.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like that though action, like to take action on that, I think is something that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily be able to do.
Yeah.
And I was there, I witnessed it, and it was pretty like profound. It was like you hear women, happen. Oh, my dude, I went through his phone and I found this and that. And it's very clear that they need to leave, but they cannot like muster the ability. What do you think caused you to be able to make that decision and just get the fuck out? How did you do that?
I mean, honestly, I think it's because it wasn't my first breakup ever, right? And again, going back to that exercising the muscle and understanding that you can leave and it's not going to kill you. But you have to do it one time to understand that, yes, it's going to change things. Yes, you got to figure some stuff out. Things are going to change. And a lot of people are really, really afraid of change.
That's true.
And so they'd rather live with what they know. Here's another Joe Dispenza nugget. They'd rather live in the known, even if the known sucks.
Right.
Because it's better in their mind than the unknown, because they can't comprehend what the unknown has in store, right? And so instead they think like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm going to be destitute. Whatever their fear is, right? Like, my kids won't know their dad, or I'll be broke on the streets. And honestly, as long as you're taking action, probably none of that is true.
Right.
But you're going to that worst case scenario in your head. So just taking action on any change that you can in your life at any point, I think helps exercise that muscle. Like, I'm not telling everybody like, go quit your job and divorce your, shitty husband and, whatever. Leave your kids behind. I'm not saying like go do all these crazy things just to exercise that muscle.
Yeah.
But like just make a change. If there's a change that you've been hemming and hawing about, like try it out and see what happens, and maybe something good will happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about the practicing of it, right? And like practicing when it's maybe the stakes are smaller.
Yeah.
So then that way you, like you said, it's like a muscle. So you're just building that muscle for those moments when you really do need that muscle to be there to like save your life or save your identity.
Right.
In your case, like to save your identity, I think is really what it is. Because you were saying, my whole identity got blown up, but I feel like, no, like the identity you had wasn't your identity. It was something else, and it needed to be blown up. And I think maybe did part of you know that like, this life I'm living here anyways doesn't work for me, with this guy who's a liar is one aspect, but like this whole thing I've created, like I feel like you now you have almost a vibrantness to your spirit that before wasn't necessarily there. Do you feel like you had an inkling inside that there was something more for you, and that also caused you to have some bravery with that?
I didn't before it happened. I had no inkling. If you would have asked me beforehand, I was remodeling our house, getting ready for our life to get like that was going to be our house for a long time. Like we were making all these plans. So I didn't have like that niggling feeling like, ugh, and I've had that before. So I know what it feels like to like be in a relationship or be in something where you just know it's not right. But I didn't have that before that happened. But as soon as it happened, there was just this little thing kind of in the back of my mind where I felt almost relief. And so I knew,
Whoa.
like, if there's almost this sense of relief coming over me that this is not the right situation, right? Like something in my gut. And I think sometimes you have to just slow down and listen to, like, what is your body telling you? What is your gut telling you? Because you're getting all these signals from your subconscious that you are not consciously aware of. And sometimes you just have to slow down and listen to those. And for me, that was kind of this sense of relief, like, oh, this gives me an out. Well, why would I need an out for a good relationship? Like my relationship now, I don't want an out of, you know? And if something like that happened to me now, I'd be devastated, right? Like, because I've had the previous experience, I know I'd make it through and, you know, I'd survive. But it's just not the same experience.
No. And that, I mean, how telling is that? And I think that a lot of times when you have like something you're in and it's taken from you, I think all of us can identify with that feeling of relief. Like there's been like times like with whether it's a job that you get fired from or something, you know, you lose a job and you're like, you think this is the perfect job for me. And then next thing you know, you're getting fired and you're kind of like, okay, I'm not taking this as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe it's a blessing.
Yeah. And even when you do take it that bad, it still can be a blessing. Like I've had those situations where I've really fought it, but it still absolutely was a blessing.
Okay. So tell me about when you left the country.
So
where did you go again? I'm never clear on geography.
So I worked from 14 countries. There are 14 countries outside the United States.
Really?
I know you don't want to hear that. Don't go to
Sounds
any of them.
overwhelming. Sounds dangerous. I think I remember telling you that's so dangerous.
Sounds terrible. You said, why would you want to leave the United States? I think is what you said.
Yeah. I was really outraged.
No, but it was 14 different countries. So basically on the continents of Europe, South America, and South Africa. And so initially I traveled with a group of digital nomads, and this group like put together all your travel for you and paired you up with roommates. And so after doing Europe that way, I decided with South America, I wanted to do it by myself. And so I went through, it's really South and Central America by myself. And then South Africa I did later on, and I did a month there, and that was with a group and with somebody that I had met traveling. She was part of that group. So,
okay. So what was that like? Like how did that go? What was that experience? What did you get from that experience? That's a better question. Like what was different about you after you did that?
I think that I knew that I could handle anything that came my way. And I think that came from the time that I spent by myself in South America.
Did you speak Spanish? Did you know?
I speak white girl Spanglish.
Okay.
And that's mocked.
Okay.
If I attempted to speak Spanish, then they would let me go on for about 30 seconds with a look of pity on their face. And then they would say, I speak English.
Oh my God.
Oh, no. Let me speak to you in your native tongue. You're terrible.
Oh my God. Okay.
But sometimes, people didn't speak English at all, and you'd have to just figure it out with hand signals and gestures and, whatnot. And so there were a few situations that I had to get through that were stress inducing. But that whole experience of having to figure that out when A, you're by yourself, B, you're in a foreign country, C, you don't speak the language, right? And so you're trying to just navigate all of those things. You just really learn that you're capable of way more than you think you are. Like, it's beyond words. I can't put into words the level of just that ability to depend on myself after those situations. I knew that I was going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it goes back to what you're talking about with having that feeling. You said like you had a realization that you had been relating to your life as a victim in many ways. And you had these stories about this is just the way it is. Well, the opposite of being a victim is being empowered, right? So you doing that and proving to yourself, I can do this. I can handle this. Like that to me is the embodiment of empowerment, right?
Right.
So what a way to address, or I wonder if that is how, in a way, that some of that victimhood was almost, I don't want to say cured, but like dealt with or confronted.
Yeah. It gave me a different perspective. And I think it made me learn that a lot of what we experience is perspective, right? So I always looked at everything as black and white. It's either fact or not fact. This happened. That's a fact.
Right.
Well, that action may have happened, but how you interpreted that action is solely your perception, and your perception is based on whatever's going on in here, right? Like in your head, you're having thoughts, and that is what's dictating that experience and that perception. So like my perception prior to traveling was that people suck. I mean, just in general. I didn't have a trust for people, right?
Right.
And having a background in HR probably didn't help me in the fact that I saw some of the...
Guy took a shit on my desk.
Seriously.
I'm filing a complaint.
My life has been threatened, it's like...
At the copy machine.
So maybe I didn't always see the brighter side, but having to go and rely on total strangers in, a few situations that I got myself into where I was like, this could have turned out totally different.
Yeah.
If people actually sucked. But instead, there were good people around to help me that were perfect strangers, didn't know me, and I was unscathed throughout the experience.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
What a great way to I don't know. I'm on this kick or this realization of how much I struggle with connecting with people or letting people be connected with me. And when you said that, it resonated with me of I think there's a part of me that does think that people suck or believes that people suck. So I want to keep them at arm's length. Mm-hmm. But you're right. It's not true. I mean, even just here, seeing how people actually are, most people are actually really wonderful.
Right.
And it's all your perception. So you just have this story that then colors your experience where you only notice the shitty people and you don't notice, what is that? Is it Mr. Rogers that talks about in the middle of a disaster, look for the heroes or look for the people who are helping? It's like that. You can focus on the disaster or you can go and look for those people who are actually helping. And I think you realize it's a lot more people than the ones contributing to the disaster.
Right.
You said, so I send out a questionnaire at the beginning before people come on the podcast. And I just want to read back one of your answers because it was one of my favorite answers anyone has ever said. So I asked, what takeaway do you want the audience to have? Or what's the key thing you want them to know? And this is what you said, that thoughts matter and anyone can change their situation at any time. While you have to be open to infinite possibilities outside your realm of comprehension, which requires letting go of control, you also aren't a victim of anything outside of your own mind. You can create the life you choose by identifying who you want to be. This isn't a title, it's who you are inside. It also frees you up not to have to pick one thing. I'm a recruiter, writer, life insurance agent, Reiki master, and not done yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I don't know why, but to me, that was such a powerful thing to read. And what I love is that you ended it with, it's about identifying who you want to be. And then, but not as a title, but who you are as an individual spiritual being. What is that? What's your beingness? And then your title can be anything. Do you feel by you're a recruiter, a writer, life insurance, does it allow you the freedom to play? When you know who you are here, does it let you just dabble and be creative? Has that been your experience?
Yes. So that's probably the biggest takeaway from starting my own business. And it's not day one, I started my own business and everything was easy from there and it went perfectly. I think people have this idea in their head that they start here and they go in a straight line and success is at the top of the straight line when really it looks more like heartbeat monitor, right?
Yeah.
It's up, down, up, down,
Flat
up, down,
lines
up, down.
for a little bit.
Exactly.
Get out the crash paddles. Clear. Okay, it's back. Yeah. I know what that's like. I had that, Jim. I know what that's like.
Right? So
Yes.
it's that first peak down, people just quit because they're oh, I failed. This is done. This wasn't for me. But really, you have to get past that low point, get back to a high point, and then you realize oh, you just have to kind of ride it out and figure out which parts you enjoy, which parts you don't enjoy, how to make it more enjoyable and maybe eliminate some of those less enjoyable pieces, but you're always going to have peaks and valleys. And with starting my business, it was that same way of, things didn't work out because I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted out of it. All I ever had was kind of that corporate background of you have this straight line of, get promoted to the next position and the next position, you're chasing the next title. Well, what's a title?
Yeah.
Titles don't really mean anything. So who do you want to be? Who you are is something different. Like, I want to be free.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be tied down to like if I were an executive at Google, Google, maybe we'll call it Moogle.
They have no idea. When you called it Moogle, it threw them off your scent completely. Like,
Totally.
What's Moogle?
What's
who
Moogle?
could they be talking about?
That's a different company.
Is that a new competitor?
They are your primary sponsor.
Oh, so yeah. Ooh. Sorry, Google, our primary sponsor.
Never mind. Another company.
God forbid we have to go to Netscape or something.
If you're an executive at Moogle,
give me a call, baby.
Maybe you're working 7 days a week, 18-hour days, and you have no freedom and you have no life. And if all you're chasing is that title, what's your life? What is the rest of your life, And so I think that by starting my business and just kind of riding those ups and downs and sticking with it and having a lot of different experiences through it, I've been able to identify more who I want to be. And sometimes I'm a sprinter, not a marathoner. Yeah. So I don't like to work at the same pace all the time. So sometimes that means it does mean a lot of hours in a day that I might be working. But other days, I might be helping my daughter move.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things that I've come to understand is a lot of times discovering who you want to be is only through just getting out there and doing things. Because there's I think a real connection between, your actions and being able to feel things out in your body, feel things out in your experience, which help to then inform or wake up your inner beingness to where you start to realize, well, this doesn't work for me. This part doesn't make me excited. Okay, well, what could that mean about who I am? Or this does make me excited. What does that mean about who I am? And I think that a lot of people think I have to find out, I need to find out who I am before I can start taking action. And in my experience, it's been different. It's been try a lot of things on, be like you are. You've got all these things that you're doing. It doesn't mean that you're, have to be committed to this one thing. You do it, you get from it what you're going to get from it, whether it's you finish it and it's this huge success and you end up loving it, or you do it for a while and you're like, oh, this kind of doesn't really light my fire. That's okay.
Right.
Let it go. Then move on to something else. But I think having the courage to take action before you're completely clear on who you are or the direction that you're going is something that feels right, at least for me. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting, right? Because what I've seen in hindsight, which some people who are just starting out don't have that hindsight yet, right. So you're just going to have to trust us on this.
Yeah.
But you look back and you look at all of those experiences and then you understand how it all fits together.
Right.
Like anytime you're in a situation doing something that you feel like, oh, this isn't really like my calling. What am I getting out of this? You're getting something. You're getting a relationship. Yes. You're meeting somebody. You're making a connection. You're learning how to do something. One of the things
you're learning what you don't like, which is also getting something.
Yeah, exactly. Eliminating things is just as important. I mean, you got to swipe left or swipe right on the dating apps. You got to do that in your life too. I love a
Tinder reference in here. I love a Tinder reference right now. Yeah, totally. My audience gets that. The 6 or 7 listening get it.
Well, there's I don't remember his first name, DeMartini. It's like the DeMartini Institute or something. I can't remember the guy's first name, but he talks about, he asks, do you make promises that you do not fulfill? Because if you make promises that you don't fulfill, then you're not aligned. and you need to look at why you're not aligned, right? And so that was even big for me. I've had a recruiting business for several years, and it made me really evaluate, like, wait, how do I want to continue in this business?
Right.
Because there are certain things that I'm not taking action on that I know I should be taking action on. I've been doing this long enough. I can't claim ignorance. So why am I not aligned?
Right.
And so it's, how do I need to change this to either take me out of the parts that I'm not aligned on, or how do I change the business to align better with my thoughts and values? Because if I'm making promises that I'm not delivering on, it means there's a misalignment somewhere. And that to me was like a really profound aha moment. Like, I'm winding down one of the businesses I'm involved in based on some of that evaluation. Like, if I want to continue in this business, it means to grow that business, I have to do X, Y, Z. Am I willing to do X, Y, Z? No, I don't really want to go down that path. And that's okay. So I'm going to wind that down, and I'm going to do other things.
Oh my God. I think that is huge. So we just went to this, this course not this past weekend, but the weekend before, facilitated by a coach named Martha Borst. She has 45 years experience, executive coaching, leadership, mindset stuff. And it was like a really intense weekend. And one of the things that she talked about with us from the very beginning was agreements. So she went through, okay, here are the agreements. And then she talked about, like, when you break the agreement, you're out of integrity with yourself. So it's not necessarily, like, obviously it impacts other people.
Right.
But really it impacts you, because you now are a person who you cannot be trusted to maintain the agreement that you made.
Right.
And the impact that has on your self-esteem, the impact that it has on your ability to, like, even focus. Like, I know for me, like, if I'm, like you just talked about, I've got projects that are like half-assed done, and I know it. And it kind of clouds my mind. It makes me not feel clear. It makes me not feel clean. And when I'm not, so then that bleeds into the other things that I am, more in alignment on, because I still have this thing in the background that I know I'm not really in integrity with it, because I said I was committed to doing it, but obviously I'm not, because the results don't lie. I can see that I'm not committed, because if I was committed and doing everything I needed to do to be committed, this thing would be different than it is. It'd be done instead of on my mind, the back of my mind, waking me up at 2 a.m.
your energy. It's just like an energy sucker away from those things that you want to do.
Yeah, I think that is like such a important and profound thing for people to really take a minute and just like do a quick audit, and like no judgment, right? Like, I loved how you said that. You're like, okay, I'm not in alignment. Why would that be? Oh, maybe I really don't want to do it. And that's okay. But at least just getting clear and then resolving it. Okay, I'm not committed. I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to wind it down and be done with it, instead of continue like letting it fester.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then you can't trust yourself. Right. And that's the worst. Like, I do that with weight. I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to get up at 4 a.m. and run. No, I'm not.
No, you're fucking not.
No,
you're
I'm not. I'm absolutely not.
No. No, I know. And so it's like, what do you do? Well, you change it to what you are going to do.
Yes.
For me, it's like, I'm just going to stay fat and drink this wine in alignment. Got it. Check.
I finally started Pilates. But like that victim mentality sticks. Like, it's not that you all of a sudden are done with it forever.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, last year, you're going to lose all of your male listeners right now. All 5 of them are gone.
Well, yeah.
So
we know this is a male
last year
audience.
With starting menopause, I was like, oh, I'm gaining weight because of menopause. And now I can't sleep at night. So I'm not going to go to 5 a.m. CrossFit. So I'm just going to do nothing. I'm going to eat as much as I want, drink as much as I want, and not exercise. But I'm going to blame menopause for my weight gain. No, bitch. You're gaining weight because you're not doing anything, and you're being a victim and blaming it on something else.
Yeah.
Like, get back to the gym. Go back, So it's like, just because you recognize that you're a victim in one moment, or that you have a victim mentality in one moment, doesn't mean you're free of it the rest of your, like, you have to audit yourself literally every day.
Sure.
You've got to work on your mindset every single day. This is not something that you just like read some book or take some course and I'm free of my diabetes.
Pass the Snickers. No, you're right. It's a practice. Yeah. And I think that what I have come to understand is everything in my life is better when I'm practicing. When I'm practicing paying attention to how I'm thinking, how I'm responding, how I'm feeling, being responsible for it.
Yes.
You know, not letting my emotions or the things that happen in a day dictate, you know, my life. That it seems to me just even practicing and being aware of it, not getting it perfect every time, but it just seems like everything goes better.
Yeah.
When I do that.
100%.
Okay, we're out of time.
All right.
Can you believe it?
That's crazy.
We got through
We could sit here and do 6 more shows.
We could, and maybe we will. Let's change our clothes and do another one. No, but I want to thank you for being here. You've been such a huge force of positive, transformational, great energy in my life and my family. And seeing you be successful and just be creative and brave and do whatever you want is so empowering. And I think this conversation is going to help a lot of people. The 6 or 7 people listening are going to be greatly impacted because of how awesome you are. And I'm so excited to read your book in October. And I'm so happy and proud of you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I love watching your success equally as much. So you're inspiring tons of people, and just keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Love you. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye.